Well, welcome back to the Unapologetic Podcast. I'm Brandt Merritt.
I'm Jonathon Woodyard.
And we are here talking mostly about Southwest Baptist University and other topics as so inclined. But it is going to be very SBU focused today. We're joined by Taylor Wehrle, who is one of the amazing staff members here at SBU. Taylor, give us a quick intro who you are, what's your title, what you do, what exactly do you do here, Office Space?
Sure, thanks. Good to be with you, brothers.
Yeah.
So my name is Taylor Wehrle. I am the Director of Student Activities and Campus Experience, which is a long title, but it basically means the things happening in student life that involve the campus experience. That's not the residence life side. That's not the safety and security side. But no, I'm involved with the activities on campus, whether it's student government, intramurals, the clubs and orgs, just the major events and the campus events. My fingerprints would be on that. And it's a delight. It's a wonderful job.
And you're running on, 7 months, 6 months?
Yeah, our family landed here, or I should say drove here from Texas this summer, or the summer of 2024. So first semester, now we're in semester 2.
Yeah.
It's going fast.
It is going fast.
Yeah. Taylor comes here, but we've known each other for 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Because Taylor and I were both at Porter Memorial Baptist Church in Lexington, Kentucky. So when I became a Christian back in 2002, I started to go to Porter Memorial Baptist Church there in Lexington. It's where I met my wife. She was part of this college ministry I got involved in. When I got involved in 2002, Taylor, you would have been
1 year old, 2.
No,
3.
No, come on.
No, I think I remember first hearing your name or seeing you. I was probably in middle school, but by the time I got into high school, you were leading in college ministry. You were then pastoring a church plant. So I would have been a senior in high school, freshman when we really started to.
Then you graduated. You went to the University of Kentucky. You got involved in the church plant there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I went to 2010. I graduated from UK. And then went to Southern Seminary in 2011.
Yeah.
Graduated MDiv 2015. And from 2015 on till now, so the last 10 years, we've been involved in some church revitalization. We've been in South Carolina. We've been in Texas. My children are native Texans. I'll probably hear about that later.
More snow in Texas than there is in Missouri.
Oh, my gosh.
Right.
And Florida.
In Florida. Yeah. Crazy.
Pensacola.
Crazy.
It's wild.
But while you were in that time period, you also spent some time in Washington, D.C.
That's right. Yeah. So right in the middle of seminary, I had an opportunity to do an internship at Capitol Hill. Very formative.
Capitol Hill Baptist Church.
Capitol Hill Baptist Church.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of internships going on. Hill staffers.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that was very formative. I think it helped me understand more about what the church is, how valuable it is. And from that, we did a pivot, and we wanted to help local churches. And before that internship in DC, Kelsey, my wife, knew that I wanted to be in higher education of some sort. And so here I am 10 years later, full circle. The Lord has provided. He's brought us back here. We feel called to be here. It's pretty sweet to see our family integrated in, whether it's sporting events or just events. My wife will be at the women's conference in February. One of the students on campus today is actually starting swim lessons for our daughter,
Adeline Vera.
Adeline. She is getting paid for it, so it's not just a free help. So our family, what I'm trying to say is our family's well connected. God's calling has been a kind calling. It hasn't been this active suffering to come here. It's been a green pastures kind of thing.
The lines have fallen in pleasant places.
Yeah, Psalm 16. So
So
it's been good. So I've known Jonathon for a long time, and that just helps with trust across the board. It's just good to run on the currency of trust and learn from him. And here we are.
Here we are.
That's awesome. But we almost segued it a little bit with the CHBC.
The Washington piece. Yeah.
Capitol Hill Baptist, which I've had some
Anything happening in Washington?
There's a few things happening in DC. So that's kind of our icebreaker. There's been a big changeover in leadership of the country, a lot of things happening this week, and just kind of curious, what are the maybe things that you thought were interesting takeaways, maybe things you're excited looking ahead or concerned about, what's the future going to hold. So yeah, just takeaways from this week with the inauguration of Donald Trump coming back in as number 47.
Carrie Underwood is awesome.
That's a man, she killed it.
Wow. I mean, she killed it, but just the professionalism, the confidence, right? We've all been in front of people. We've all been on stages, right? And you know somebody has done that a lot when they can step into a moment like that, surrounded literally by presidents and vice presidents of the United States. I mean, how many presidents were there, right? And their spouses and senators and tech billionaires, some of those powerful people in the world. And she walks out. The sound doesn't, I'd hate to be that sound guy this week. I don't know if he's looking for a job or not, but there's no music. And she just is like, no big deal. I can just sing.
I know the words.
And she does it. And she engages the crowd too, right? And so, sing with me. And then even at the end where she's kind of got her hands up and
it almost looks scripted. It was just
almost.
Was it a conspiracy? Was that scripted?
That conspiracy number one. Yeah, I don't know. So that was cool. But man, it's been interesting. I don't remember watching the inaugurations in the past. I watched all of this. I mean, I just took it all in because I am excited. Obviously, we don't elect saviors. Our hope is in Jesus Christ. We are a people who look forward to a new heavens, new earth. And until that day, we're living in a fallen world. And I don't think for 1 second we've elected a man who is the savior of the world or the savior of America or anything like that. So that type of rhetoric, I think, is overblown. But I think we've elected someone who's going to lead the country in some ways that I think are exciting. I'm excited for his strengthening of the military, the ways he's leaning into the military. Just for me, I mean, I've served for 14 years in the military. I've seen a lot of different things. I've served on the enlisted side, on the officer side. I've served overseas. So I'm actually excited about some of the things I hear in terms of strengthening the military. So I'm excited to see what happens there. I was blown away when he said that from this day forth, there are two genders, right? That's the way we're going to operate. And for Christians who believe the Bible, right, we believe that to be true. That is reality. And we don't think it's loving to lie about that or to say something different. So I was excited. And even in, I think, that executive order there, he somebody had shown some of the language, had slipped in this, whoever wrote it, I doubt it was Donald Trump, but whoever wrote it, that this personhood, life beginning at conception. I thought, man, that is and biology assigned at birth. That was pretty cool. So I'm excited to see some of those things. I'm not excited about the rhetoric. I'm not excited about the lack of coherent speeches in front of people. I don't completely trust anybody in the government or around me. Just trying to temper some of that. Yeah. So there's some things to be excited about. There are things to be cautious about. And at the end of the day, I don't hope in the White House, but in Christ.
Yeah. Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, similarly to Jonathon, this was the first inauguration I think I sat down and watched. I mean, as I'm watching, I don't want to say I'm yelling, but I'm using a firm tone to my children to behave and sit down. They don't know why they should be watching. And meanwhile, I'm taking it in and I'm thinking, humanly speaking, this is one of the most powerful gatherings of people in a room. Money in politics. I mean, I'm thankful that DEI is being faded out of the military as well and other institutions.
Because you're in the military?
I'm a chaplain in the reserves for the United States Navy. I mean, even this week, I think the commandant of the Coast Guard was put on notice. I think that person's job was removed from them. So I like that there's not just talk, but things happening in action. And I think at the end of the day, the pride and some of the things that are said versus the policies that get enacted, I think we are going to see a real big shakeup that's going to cause people to think, why do we do what we do as Americans? Corporate world, military, how we spend, what we do with our borders.
Education, all kinds of
education. Stuff. So my eyes are wide open to what's going to be happening. I see it all as a discipleship moment because there's probably going to be a lot of conversations with students that come because things are going to splash the news hard. So what a time to be living.
Yeah, there was a Wall Street Journal article. One thing I was reading this week and was kind of going through just the litany of executive orders that have been signed and trying to parse through like what is actually going to move things and what's just words on a piece of paper. But, one of the main themes they're pulling out is just this challenging of the status quo, like that we're just not in an era where accepting how things have been operating is the way we need to be operating going forward, which in some ways is kind of, the outsider mentality that Trump has always portrayed himself. But I mean, I look at things, and I'm a political junkie, so I've watched multiple inaugurations. I remember even watching in Obama's inauguration at that point, feeling kind of hopeful that he entered as sort of this, we're going to be united, and I'm going to be still holding to a lot of traditional things while challenging some new things. And then it didn't play out that way. So I've watched a lot of them and enjoyed the process. But some of the things that on this status quo, I look at Greenland, that whole conversation of like, are we going to buy Greenland? Are we going to take Greenland by force? Are we going to make it part of the extreme things are probably not going to happen, but poking at just the status quo when you've got this, there are resources that are needed that are there. There's strategic ways that we need to be using property and acreage and coastlines and things there that can be more strategic in advancing our interests, but also just the Western U.S. Democratic interest. And so kind of, using that as an example of, we're not going to land an invasion force on Greenland and take the island, but we should be more thoughtful about things in our backyard. And so he, I think, does these things that kind of poke extremes and then pull back and actually advance, incrementally toward things that are beneficial. You mentioned the rhetoric, which I'm kind of with you. There won't be really, is he back? I guess he's back on Twitter. So they'll probably be
I think so, yeah.
They'll be mean.
Sure.
We'll have mean tweets again, which is kind of that whole thing.
Yeah.
But my youngest daughter was watching the inauguration with me too, and like 5 minutes in, she's like, I don't like the way he sounds. I was like, why does he sound so mean? I'm like, well, that's just kind of him.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
So, those sort of setting that example for people watching is not ideal. You don't want your kids associating leaders with
and I think
that
that's
sort of thing.
That's where Christians have to be wise. Whether it's Trump or anybody else, we're watching these leaders, and we want to evaluate everything and say, evaluate the attitudes, the policies, and sometimes you have to keep those distinct. Like, I don't really like the personality that's in front of me, but the policies I can get behind.
Yep.
So learning to differentiate between those two things. Character matters, so we still want to lament character flaws. We still want to lament when things are said or done that wouldn't align with how we understand righteousness and justice and kindness and love and all these types of things. So I think for going forward, people on the right who are very happy with the outcome of the election, they have to be careful. Make sure your allegiance is to Jesus, your allegiance is to him and his kingdom and the righteousness that characterizes that kingdom. Be able to speak out when our leaders, including Donald Trump, do things that are not right, that are hurtful. We want to be able to say that. And at the same time, those on the left that are not excited about this presidency, these next 4 years, I think the danger for those, and there are Christians in that camp, right? There are a lot of Christians in that camp. The danger for them is being so deflated and so angry that they're unable to praise the praiseworthy, right? So we want to be able to do both things as Christians going forward. And that's what we have to do with every president. It doesn't matter who would be president.
Right.
We've got to be able to say, hey, we can celebrate that thing and we're going to condemn that thing. And we do so before the face of God.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting 4 years, I think, will be the short end of it.
No shortage of news cycles, things to say.
And even just, bringing it back even to SBU, there have been some very sort of radical proposals around higher education that the administration has talked about, from one side of getting rid of the Department of Education to what is the IRS going to do? Are they going to start, not that we have $1 billion endowment like Harvard does, but we're going to start taxing endowments of universities, and what sort of trickle down does that have? And our Pell Grants going to stay the way that they've always stayed, which we have a lot of students that get Pell Grants. So there, a lot of real things for us to pay attention to that will have real impacts. It's not just, it's not just emotive. How do we feel about things? There are going to be real practical changes that have impacts.
Agree.
So, All right. So back to student experience and campus events and all things under Taylor. So maybe I'm going to start poking you on this one. So
Sure.
I don't know if it's fair to say over the past year we identified an opportunity, if not maybe a gap, in how we are strategically building student experience on our campus, the main campus here in Bolivar. And so what was that process like, and you evaluating what that looks like, and how did that lead to bringing Taylor?
The gap was really a personnel gap. When I first got here, they didn't have somebody in that seat. There was no director of campus experience. Historically, there has been director of student activities, campus experience. I added the campus experience language, so anybody that's watching this that maybe has a history with SBU, it was called the director of student activities. So we've taken that student activities and we're using now this campus experience language because it's not just activities, it's your whole experience here, how you experience life during your life here at SBU. So when I got here, there was nobody leading that charge officially. We had somebody that was kind of stepping into that role and doing a great job, but having to manage her own job and kind of oversee this in the interim. So when I first got here, the gap was personnel. I've got to find somebody to fill that slot. Found somebody pretty quickly out of the gate, but that person, good for her. She did a great job, but she got engaged, married, moved back to Kansas City. Alexis Stout, she was great. Loved her. She used to serve in residence life and would have been fantastic, but life moves on. She got married, and we're happy for her. So that, again, we had that personnel gap. And so who are we going to find to fill that slot? And because we're trying to build a culture of discipleship, we're not merely trying to keep people busy with activities. We want to offer meaningful moments, things that engage students in head, heart, hands. We're trying to shape them through the things that they're doing. I wanted to find someone that was seasoned, that had been involved in campus ministry before. Taylor's been involved in Res Life at the University of Kentucky, done a lot of college ministry, University of Texas at Austin, with students there, different things. Wanted to find somebody who would not just plan stuff, but actually think strategically about how to shape students, disciple students. So we wanted to bring that focus to this role, and that's when I started. Well, actually, I think, Taylor, I can't remember how it happened. I texted you about somebody else.
Yeah, there's a text thread that we were on with several pastors.
Yeah.
I was pastoring at the time in Texas. Mm-hmm. And the question just went out, who do you know, a quality person that could fit? And you listed out some bullet points. And
you shot me a name.
I began to pray and think and sent some names your way that my name was not on there.
Yeah. And then I think you called me, said, hey, actually.
Well, yeah. So you initially sent that out, sent some names your way. 2 months went by. You asked again. You asked personally, would you be interested? And the Lord had been working on me in that moment. Number one, you don't even know what SBU is. You need to understand what it is. Because I had some tunnel vision on the pastoral setting I was in Texas. Yeah. But yeah, through your inquiry, humble, just asking who we may know, the Lord got my attention. I think I put in an application in January.
Yeah. So I identified Taylor, and we start talking. And I've known Taylor. I've watched Taylor. I know on the relational side, the creative side, all those things just fit. So I wanted the kind of gap was personnel, and then the gap was also ideological, not just activities, but meaningful moments, shaping students, discipling students, leading a team. So the team he leads, the Student Association, which is our student government, the University Activities Council, which all students, intramurals, student-led, Welcome Week staff, all students. Who's going to lead them to get the job done, to get the things done, the activities done, but also shape them, disciple them along the way. And that's putting those two pieces together for me. I don't know that the person in my role before had thought that way about that role. Maybe they did. I don't know. But that's the way I was thinking about it. I wanted to make that really explicit in the job, and that's what Taylor's doing.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, and it was very encouraging. And just to give you a window into some side conversations we had in the interview process, Jonathon encouraged me, don't kill your pastor's heart. You're not leaving the local church to just help run events. And it excited me about what's being built here. I mean, I don't want to get off topic and talk about all the good changes that have been going on outside of student life, but I'm thankful for all that God's doing here to truly rebuild. And my own mental scaffolding is being built for higher ed because this is my first time working in it. But it's not, how should I say, it's not without a lot of overlap to college ministry and just life. Because what we're trying to do here is shape people in Christ likeness.
Yeah.
So I don't have to think too hard. What am I supposed to do in higher ed? Maybe some of the nuts and bolts change, but the aim is still the same.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so it's been very rewarding.
The aim for us,
Yeah.
Colossians 1:28. You can check me on that. You can send me an email if I got it wrong. But I think Colossians 1:28. Paul, right? His aim, he's laboring and toiling to present people mature in Christ. Well, that was my aim as when I was in pastoral ministry.
Yeah.
And people say, "Oh, you're leaving the ministry." I'm like, actually, that presenting people mature in Christ, I'm trying to do that still, just in a different context. And for Taylor, that was kind of the admonishment. Hey, we're still wanting to raise up mature followers of Jesus that are ready to lead in the world, right? So putting those pieces together and making that really explicit and having somebody over in that office that I could trust is going to faithfully disciple, shepherd, guide those student leaders, workers, and create this culture we're trying to create here. It's been fun to see it all come together.
Well, I mean, observing from, my seat even today as a great example. I'm walking into lunch and you're meeting one-on-one with students. There's probably a few days I come in that you're not meeting with students over lunch or having conversations. So just when you came in and you sort of started to imagine what this is going to look like and start, on day one, that relational piece I'm sure was part of it. But what are some of those other things that you kind of entered in with, okay, this is what I think this could be?
Yeah, I think Romans, there's a few verses that have just motivated me in ministry and in coming here and every day. I mean, Romans 15:7 says, welcome one another as Christ has welcomed you for the glory of God. I mean, what a simple verse. But Jesus, it pursues us. He meets us where we are. He doesn't leave us there. He wants to sharpen us and shape us, redeem us, forgive us. That's why he died on the cross and rose again. He wants to change our life, but he doesn't come at us in our face in a scary way to change our life. He's wise about it. He's subtle. And I think a verse like that can happen all the time here. And that's what excites me. So today, I won't mention her name because she has dental work that's going to be going on. She probably doesn't want to be mentioned publicly. But yeah, I was sitting with a student today and we quickly pivoted from her involvement on campus to, well, how's life going? Like, what's frustrating? What's hard? And she's like, I need to have a root canal done. And it could happen at any moment. And so by the end of the conversation, praying for her, there's real relational capital that just got deposited in the bank, so to speak, to where I didn't sit by her to twist her arm to get her to come to an event. I sat by her to get to know her. But now I know her better. She knows me. And she knows more of what's going on. She feels cared for. And she didn't have to eat by herself, and I didn't. So, it's God's grace all over that. But other verses that would hit student life would be like Ecclesiastes 2:24-25. I mean, I hit this with my teams often. That verse, to paraphrase, we can't even eat without God giving us the enjoyment to eat something. We can't have any enjoyment. So I don't want to be like a secular university that says, let's just do something crazy and fun just for the sake of it. I want to think through, again, how can we have moments that cause students to love being here at SBU? Because if they love it, they're going to be more resilient in class when things don't go their way. Maybe they do poorly on a test, or maybe they have friction back home or in a relationship. But if they love their campus, they're going to be attentive to what's going on in chapel. They're going to want to come to more events. They're going to be more connected and engaged. They're going to belong. So I see what I'm doing as, I think one person said, you're the minister of fun because you get to do fun events. Well, that's true, but what about all the timesheets and the budgets and making sure we spread out our events the right way and we don't step on each other's toes? And there's a lot of quote unquote non-fun things that I get excited about because they make things run. And it's a privilege to be here. I mean, I think I can see firsthand how if somebody is a pastor, their first inclination is to want to disciple somebody. Whereas if your first inclination is well, I'm just an administrative person and I'm not a believer, I don't even know the Lord, you're going to miss all the ministry that is happening every second. I mean, Jesus got interrupted a lot. We think he got interrupted. For him, that was ministry. I thank the Lord that Jonathon put me in an office with glass walls. I keep my door open all the time, where at any moment students walk in. And sure, I can't get emails done as efficiently, but I praise God that there is just as much, if not more, ministry happening here than there was day in, day out in a local church.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Some of this, as he's talking, we don't do this merely to create a sticky campus because we want students to stay here. The reality is we do, right? We want students to stay in 4 years and finish a degree and graduate. We want all that to happen. That's good for them. It's good for us. It's good for them. And so a lot of what he's doing is helping create that sticky campus that they feel cared for. She knows somebody. Somebody showed some concern about her, sat with her, that sort of thing, or the events and the things that we do. Students love being here. They belong. That word we're keying on. They feel a sense of belonging and they don't want to leave. And we think that's a healthy thing for them. It's a healthy thing for the institution. So Taylor and his team, I said this when we were talking about you coming, are critical to the outcomes of this place. If students are going to stay here, it's hard to leave a place where you feel like I'm enjoying my time, people care for me, these are my people, I belong here. It's harder to leave that sort of place. So I see student activities, campus experience, all the things they're doing over in their department as critical to creating a sticky campus.
Yeah. And I think the students don't see some things. It's okay that they don't see. They don't see that in our staff meetings. I mean, Jonathon will lead us in worship. We will sing songs out loud. We will look at the scriptures together. We'll pray for the semester, for one another, for President Melson, the cabinet. And then we will get down to business and talk about things we need to. The students don't see that. And they don't see that every event we do gets prayed for on the front end and back end. They don't see some of the meetings with student leaders. And that's okay. You know, I can't see the inner workings of my watch right now, but I know it's powering the thing. And I think there's so much that goes into student life to make it retention filled that it doesn't feel artificial. It just feels like ministry. And it's practical ministry too. I guess what I mean by that is if a student walks into my office, behind me, they're going to see a calendar of every month, everything going on. And they just see that as a calendar. I see it as a ministry tool because when they sit down and they're telling me about their event and they've got tunnel vision on that, I can help them think, well, wait a minute, there's other things going on besides quote unquote your event, whether it's essay, UAC, intramurals. And it's a discipling tool where I try to help them think long term if they're too focused on this week. Like, you're going to graduate. You're shaping your character for far beyond this week. And the opposite's true. If they come in there, their head's in the clouds, they're just thinking about what they're going to do for a summer camp, whatever. I can use that in a reverse way. Zoom in. Hey, you have stuff to accomplish this week. The Lord has given you this scholarship to steward well. So it's kind of this is how life works. Everything has a theological dimension if we look at it. And so I'm trying to help students see when they sit down, life is not about them, but it's not about me. It is about what the Lord's doing and the opportunities he's given them. And it goes fine. I don't rush at them. I don't make them feel bad. I try to encourage them. But I think they know now that I'm going to stop what I'm doing and just talk to them. I'm not going to be too busy if they're having a bad day or if they can't find a credit card receipt or if they feel stumped, they don't know how to pull off this next event. I see it as I can wait on that email. I can wait. I can be late to a meeting, perhaps in person, if I'm going to finish up with a student. Yeah. And Jonathon's given me permission to do that. Yeah. He said those kind of conversations are valuable. So it's a joy.
What fall semester you jumped right in, welcome week, some new events. What are some things that you learned in that first semester? What are some things that you were happy with? What were some things that maybe you're like, ooh, that was a miss. We might do that differently next time. Just before we look at what's coming, like what was that first semester like?
I mean, looking back, it was kind of like water torture. when prisoners are they think they're drowning, but they're not. They think water's being poured over their face. In the sense of, how does this system work? How do I even contact that department? Who's in that department? How do we do credit card reconciliations? What kind of password do I need for that? How do the budgets work? When
We still haven't figured that out.
So in that little slice, it felt like, wow, this is hard. But the larger piece of the pie felt like, wow, this is a front row seat to men and women at literally the crossroads of their life. I mean, college students are making decisions that are going to impact the rest of their life. So it felt like I get a front row seat in learning all the traditions we have here. I mean, as Jonathon said, I've been on a lot of college campuses, University of Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky University, Transy, and done ministry there, University of South Carolina, Aiken, Texas A&M, Galveston, University of Texas. And you all have been college students as well. I have. That there's nothing new under the sun, as Ecclesiastes would say, but just like in local churches, there are specific traditions that a school does that if you touch that too quickly, ouch, you're going to make people mad. So this past semester, I spent most of my time trying to just observe and learn. And it was hard because I had things I had to get done, and I wanted to get them done without getting in the way of the good that was already happening. I didn't want to try to improve everything until I understand what's going on. But it was hard. My family was moving. We were looking for a house. We were in some apartments nearby. We're thankful for that. My kids are at the age where they're in diapers and should be out of diapers, but get back in them sometimes when they don't need to be. So it was a busy time. It was hard as far as the structures, understanding how higher ed works. I don't think I knew what a provost is or does when I first got here. I didn't know how that even worked. But giving time and attention to it, it's like it slowed down a little bit each week. And then over Christmas break, looking back, you know this in life, hindsight's 2020, stopping, realizing, oh, that's how that works. That's why that student came to me with that meal plan issue. That's where I go to answer that question, So it was a fire hydrant moment. It was not one of those roller coasters that inch to the top of the hill and drop you down. It was like the slingshot kind that just, you're going. I don't know if I'd do it over again the same way. I think I would have learned how to do maybe some block scheduling earlier last semester. But it was fun. I learned a lot. The learning's continuing. I mean, this is my first spring semester too.
Yeah.
But it was fast paced. It was fast paced.
Yeah. Well, and fall, every semester has its thing, but you got welcome week, you have homecoming, and there's some big things that happen in the fall, to your point, that have ways that they've been done in the past. And so it's a lot to.
I mean, I learned that when events happen, there's a lot of happenings on the back end of an event. I mean, Jonathon gently admonished me, hey, if you keep trying to do the tail end of events all by yourself, you're going to burn out. And so that was something I had to learn last semester quickly. We can't plan the front. We need to plan the beginning, middle, and the end. Students loved last semester. I mean, we kept a lot of the traditions. Homecoming was huge. Convoy of Hope was wonderful. The Great SBU Campout, that was the number one thing students enjoyed. I mean, that was survey responses. That's the number one thing they enjoyed. The Christmas gala and bingo, grocery bingo nights. It was a great semester.
Part of the fire hydrant stuff was you're trying to sell your house in Texas, find a house here, and plan for 300 incoming students at Welcome Week and all the Welcome Week leaders and all that first week kind of programming. There's so much that happens with the ministry fair, and we changed it, and we were making changes with that. The clubs and orgs fair, all that stuff, moving parts, and you're trying to plan all of it in a summer where your family's living in Texas. You're here by yourself. You're going back and forth to see them, trying to lead teams that aren't here because the students are gone.
That's right.
So it was hard. It was, and we knew it was going to be hard. Maybe didn't know it was going to be as hard as it ended up being. But at the same time, to his credit and his team's credit, I've heard nothing but positive things from Welcome Week. We had positive feedback, positive survey results. I think overall it was a huge success, even though we wouldn't want to go through the same sort of stressors again. And we won't have to. We won't have to. You know what's coming.
There were some bumps along the way. I think I ordered an extravagant amount of barbecue sauce and ketchup for Woodyard's front yard.
Yeah, we still have bottles of ketchup if you want them.
Little things about how much food to bring. But there was a great team. I mean, the students I was working with were wonderful for Welcome Week. And there was old templates and old files. That was a blessing and a curse because different folks who've sat in this role that I currently have each did things a little bit different way. So there wasn't without a roadmap, but it's just like, I mean, preaching and other things in life, or even marriage. If I say that, you can't be an expert at marriage before you get married. You can't be an expert preacher before you start preaching. And I think
can't be a life coach at 20.
Yeah,
Is that
you can't. I think there's been a lot of room.
Too many people try to do.
Yeah,
a lot of room to learn, graciously given, and by God's grace, He's giving the wisdom. He's giving the joy.
Hey, before you jump in, I know you're going to jump into like some things coming down the pipe. Some people listening may not even know. We keep talking about these students and leaders. What's the structure of your team?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so there's a few different student teams that I meet with. There's the SA, which stands for Student Association, aka Student Government. And within that, you've got a president and a vice president. You've got a campus improvement person, a chair. You've also got a campus involvement person, which would be clubs and orgs. So that's all SA, Student Association. You've also got UAC, which is the University Activities Council. Within that, you have a few different chair positions. You have a major events chair. You have a campus events chair. And the way I distinguish those is, for example, if we have a ping pong tournament, you don't want the entire campus at a ping pong tournament.
Yeah.
You'd be there for days. You want good attendance. So campus events would be things that are at a more specific target scale, whereas the major events, we want everybody, every student, even faculty, we want everybody to show up at. So we have a major events chair, a campus events chair, we have a marketing and publicity chair, and we also have an IFC chair, interfaith and culture, that also plans events. So there's 4 students on each team. There's also intramural sports. We have a graduate assistant. We also have a student director. So all of these folks I just named, these chair positions, I meet with them one-on-one. I meet with them in individual groups, and then we meet together in a large group. And we do different things every time we meet. I mean, even right now, the cement is still wet on the calendar. It'll solidify by the end of this week, where we plan out all of the spring. I work with them individually on their budgets, how to work together. A lot of these students have committees within their teams that help pull things off, to set up and tear down. And then within one-on-one meetings, we're talking about life as iron sharpens iron. We're talking about their schedule, because we want to shape them as leaders. So the structure would be all those teams are within my purview to care for, but I am one director among many directors within student life that all work with Jonathon. It's an awesome team.
Yeah, and then you also have the Welcome Week team. So you hire, you hire the Welcome Week team.
Yeah, so there's some teams that they operate more in the summer, like Welcome Week. I'll meet with them more remotely.
You're getting ready, I guess, to start hiring them too.
Start hiring soon. I mean, there's even students who do work study that are in the mix. It feels kind of like a beehive over there in the Student Association office. But yeah, I think the simple way to describe it is there's about 3 teams of students on the teams that I would directly lead. Maybe a 4th team that's intangible. That's the basic structure from what I manage, so to speak.
It's a lot. It's a lot of people.
Yeah, it could be an octopus on roller skates
And
at
probably
times.
75, 80 events when you add it all up per calendar.
Yeah,
per
we
school
had,
year, so.
I think we had 75 or so this past semester. This semester we've got 25 on the calendar, not counting intramurals and not counting the one-off things that might be like the Super Bowl coming up. But this week, what our teams have been doing is building out the calendar, because I learned last semester, don't let anybody plan something a week before they want to pull it off, or even 2 weeks. Things need to be planned out at least a month, if not 2 or 3 months in advance, so that we get work orders in, so that we check how the budget's doing, so we make sure we have enough students to pull it off, so that we can promote it and advertise it well. We can set up and get room requests going. I mean, it's like pulling off a wedding, every month.
Nice. Yeah. No pressure.
In a fun way. Yeah, no pressure.
Well, what's coming in the spring? You mentioned some things on the calendar already, some stuff that's still getting solidified. What are the big hitters this semester? Yeah, in the spring, the biggest, kind of the 1-2 punch, would be Mr. and Mrs. Southwest in March, and then the Mazarkian. Again, these are new events for me to experience. I feel like I've experienced them after talking to students and learning from them. So Mr. and Mrs. Southwest and the Mazarkian, but also the Dorm Olympics. I mean, there's some overlap with Residence Life. Maybe Jacob Banks will be on here one of these days.
Yep.
He can share more on Dorm Olympics and the Bearcat Cup and all that. But I mean, we have events that are more targeted, whether it's grocery bingo, glow night, ping pong, even slip and slide out on the property. But then we have these larger events that are, they take a lot more teamwork to pull off. The Battleship, which is going to happen in the Meyer Wellness Center pool. We're partnering with Intramural Sports. This year, we're doing some things to make it more safe.
Yeah, last year was insanity.
I heard about some black eyes with oars and things that could fly off a boat.
You literally get in the pool with a boat, a blow-up boat, and you're trying the last one standing.
Okay.
Pool noodles this time, no plastic oars.
That's right. I mean, I'm looking forward to the spring, but I say this not just from the pastoral perspective. I'm looking forward to see how the student leaders grow, because for them, because we change out who the student leaders are year after year, they just finished a semester where they learned as much as I did. And so I can already see it. They're refined in the way they think about how they plan events. We've got a Worship Through the Ages night planned, where we're going to cover how Christians worshiped through the ages and worshiped the way they did. So we have some events that are geared towards faith directly and others that are more informal. All of them are to create fun moments. We may do a road trip this spring. That remains to be seen. Forrest Frank road trip. A lot of students want to go hear Forrest Frank.
I have no idea who that is.
Christian pop artist.
Okay.
We might do a 5K race. I mean, we still have a few things we may plan. But some of the key traditions that have been happening semester after semester, we're not going to touch yet. We're going to keep those going. And I think the Mazarkian is probably the biggest event to pull off. Were you all there at the Mazarkian last year?
Yeah, out at the airplane hangar.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been twice. I was here I went my first year, and then I went last year.
Okay. So it's a full semester planned already. It feels full, but I think we're pacing it out better than we did last semester, at least in terms of our planning. And the students are doing great with their eye on the budget and talking together. We just pray the warmer weather happens.
The camp out was a little colder and wetter than you guys were hoping, I think.
Yeah,
wetter for sure.
Yeah.
It would have been a good Noah's Ark storytelling night with all the rain. Students loved it. I think being out in the elements this spring as it warms up, or even now, students just forget that it is an act of God's grace to just be face-to-face with one another. No screen in between, just face-to-face, hanging out, talking. Because then informally, they talk about what they're learning. They talk about what they're struggling with. I mean, even on our own teams, we talk about what's something good and what's something hard. And everybody has to go around and share, because I don't want any student to kind of have this hypocritical facade. Everything's easy. That's not real life. But I also want to encourage them. And so the teams are ready. They're geared up. We have an awesome spring planned. I look forward to tracking it the whole way. I mean, even SA, our student association, we did Wing It with Ben last semester, where we ate chicken wings with the president, interview style.
The student association president.
Yeah, we're going to try to do that again. Ben Hines. Maybe we could do a Wing It with President Melson.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
We've got a lot going on. We just did a partnership with C of O, College of the Ozarks, where their intramural champions played ours. And our volleyball team,
Dominated.
the W is on the scoreboard after that.
Yeah, we traveled down there. They had, 40 students or so?
Traveling there, 35, 40. Min Den, our GA, did a great job organizing gas cards if students filled up their vehicle to get down there and back. They're going to come and play us in basketball this spring. We've got basketball, pickleball, spike ball, soccer, sand volleyball, all kinds of intramural sports going on outside of the regular events that we're doing. So it's kind of a power-packed spring.
Yeah.
Keeps everybody busy.
Yeah. Hey, I just thought of this. Do the listeners of this podcast get to hear the cool intro music at the end, just like at the beginning?
I have no idea.
Because I love the guitar riff and the drum. It's like this enigmatic, mysterious.
Yeah, it plays at the end.
I don't know that I've listened to it.
I would like some of that to play in the student union for some student life events, wherever you got that.
Okay. It's the same hosting software.
I have no idea. You could. I
Out
tell
of
you
the
what you do
box.
is you could just start showing the podcast once a month
Hey,
Right.
over in the union.
that's easy on our budget.
There you go.
So we might do that.
I'll get you the link.
Yeah.
From there. But I know Jonathon is excited you're here to, put in motion some of the things that have been sort of envisioned from the student life side. I'm thrilled that you're here just because it's awesome to see you plug in and get to become friends and go from there. So it's great, not just doing life with students, we get to do life. And
We all go to the same church.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to be here. I mean, I'm saying this not because Jonathan's on the podcast. I would say it if Brandt, if you and I were just having lunch. I mean, I'm not micromanaged, which is wonderful. I can flourish within that. There's just built-in accountability with our budgets and schedule, check-in, touch points. And I think there's just a high trust among our whole team in student life that it's just a great environment. And I think we had better student involvement at our events this past semester than the last 3 years when you track back on some of the analytics. And I think, again, students don't see that everything's prayed for. They don't see some of those things, but the student leaders are giving it their all, and they're using the gifts God's given them. So I look forward to what's coming.
awesome. Well, us too. It's going to be, we did glow night last year that we rode around on the golf cart.
Yeah. That's the that's the
not
battle.
The battle.
The battle's going to happen.
The glow
yes.
sticks. That's a Res Life event. Residence Life. So Jacob, that's a Jacob event, but that's
I got confused with glow sticks.
glow
which is
sticks
not
out
glow
on the
night.
yeah. We can
That's
talk about
the
that,
battle.
with Jacob. But that's a big event. That's a lot of fun. You
Yeah.
haven't experienced that yet, I don't think. So
It's coming.
Oh,
Heard
yeah.
about it.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
There's some fun stuff.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Taylor. Thanks, Jonathan. Another good episode. Get to know a little bit more of happening on campus. We'll be back next week. I think it's just you and me next week.
Oh, good.
But then we got some, I think, good things lined up in the spring. We want to get some of our chapel speakers. We talked about West Vance is coming up soon. I want to bring on some of our Springfield campus faculty and talk about some of the things that are happening down with health sciences and nursing, and a lot of growing programs in Springfield. So again, lots of exciting things coming for us on the podcast this spring as well.
So I'll be here for 2 more weeks, and then I'll be gone. So I don't know what you're going to do. You're going to do
the Springfield one.
That's the Springfield one. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Be great.
Awesome.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.